You are now watching Sleepership, brought to you without commercial interruptions.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Let's try to do this. It is the Thursday, December 29th, 2016, almost the end of the year. It's been quite a year, hasn't it? So I want to kind of do a best of as best I can, because I tend to live in the moment and I do forget a lot. Okay, I do. It goes without saying though that this year has been a real challenge to all of us. You know, what with the insane presidential election here in the United States, on top of the continued madness of war and mortality really catching up with our generation, or the golden generation. You know what I'm saying? Post-war, World War II, the golden years. People are dying, you know, and one of the catchphrases that's being used in social media is 2016 really sucks, can't wait for it to end. But if you think more realistically, 2017 will be a continuation, because we're moving in that direction. We're getting older, we're dying. We just lost Carrie Fisher. Of course I have Star Wars, yeah. And a day later, we just found out her mom, Debbie Reynolds, dies. Have this. I mean, who doesn't have this, or something related to Star Wars? I mean, you know, one of those things that affected the world. Very happy to say that in 2001 I got to meet Carrie Fisher. I only have one of two pictures that were taken of us. I wish I had the other one. It belongs to the agency that I used to work at. But I posted the one picture of us on my Facebook page. The other one I wish I had a copy of, because we're at dinner and she and I got along really well, because she's a street, you know, drug head and knows, you know, and recognized, you know, we just recognize each other. There's a picture of her with her head on my shoulder at the dinner table. I really would like a copy of that picture. but the other picture of us standing together at an event is on my Facebook page. So the passing of important, iconic figures of entertainment and art and music has been big on the plate this year. You know, I'll mix this up, okay? Because I've been telling you what I think are my records of the year. There are a lot of records of the year that people say, well, you didn't mention that. It's because I don't have it, okay? We want to go all the way back to the way the year started. Definitely one of the albums of the year for me, definitely, is Bowie's Black Star.
Okay, I worked in the U.S. space program for 36 years. I was a contractor employee, first working for McDonnell Douglas and then ending up working for Boeing after McDonnell Douglas was purchased by Boeing. I started at the end of the Mercury program and worked the whole Gemini program. And during Gemini, I was responsible for the design of the equipment for the life support system. And so I had a distinct interest in keeping astronauts alive and having successful equipment. During the program, when we were flying the Gemini spacecraft, my interest in UFOs became very real. It became real because, first of all, Gemini 2, which was unmanned, it was rumored and talked about among our researchers that 2 UFOs had followed Gemini 2. And then Gemini 2, of course, recovered later. And I didn't think too much about that except, yeah, that's kind of funny. Very interesting stuff. And then when Gemini 4 flew, and its 4-day mission, 66 orbits, with James McDivitt and Ed White, about halfway through the mission, McDivitt said he has something up here with him.
The electronics went out in the American military, and all of the insurgents' rifles jammed, or we saw all of the polluted waters in North Carolina from the pig farming completely healed overnight. And different signs like this, then we would know we're dealing with a benevolent species, and then we could really be open and welcome. But then again, we would have to be cautious, because beings with that much power could give the impression that they're here to help when really they're not. So the verdict is out on all this. We just don't know which ones are benevolent, which ones are malevolent, and the degree to which they're going to continue interacting with our planet. But what would really help is if the United States military and police and government open it up to their staffs and say, look, this is something we really do have to consider, because, you know, maybe the defense, the survival of our species could well be at stake. If you look at the history, you know, from, say, Ken Arnold's first sighting in 47, going back to the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel, going back to the medieval manifestations of little saucers and UFOs, that painting of the Madonna that's very famous, in which it appears, up to now, there have been no mass murders by these beings. There's been no mass destruction of cities, but hundreds of thousands of people have been taken out of their lives, subjected to surgical experimentation, released back into the population, and are suffering trauma today for it. That is not good. is justified. If you look at Day the Earth Stood Still, you know, the first thing that happens is the army is assembled and, you know, guns are shot at these beings and at the ship.
I addressed the question to Dick Cheney because I say the most important question to put to any high-ranking official is not when you think about UFOs or have you seen one. The most important question is, have you ever been briefed on the subject? Did someone walk into your office and tell you what's going on? Because if someone walks into the president's office or some high-ranking official and briefs him on the subject of UFOs, it is for real. It's not imaginary, as the government has been saying for 60 years. So I asked Mr. Cheney, this is 3 months after he became the vice president, I asked him on the air, and this is still on Diane Reeves' archives, Mr. Cheney, in all your jobs in the government, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if so, when was it and what were you told? And Mr. Cheney said, if I had been briefed on that subject, it probably would have been classified, and I wouldn't be talking about it.
January 22nd, 1997, I noticed 3 amber orbs now at a distance far west on the horizon. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, even though they're in a line formation, they were amber, they were in a formation, they were hovering for minutes. As I'm pointing like this, they reappear in the same spot. And I thought, I have to get a picture of this. And I ran upstairs, I grabbed my 35mm, get out onto the balcony. As I'm ready to shoot the 3 bottom orbs, suddenly 6 amber orbs in a row, totally equidistant from each other, massive span across, pop up.
On March 13, 1997, over 10,000 Arizona residents witnessed the single most spectacular UFO sighting in the 20th century. Headlines surged the nation, and Arizona residents demanded answers from military and state officials. A mile-wide UFO was seen from as far north as Flagstaff, Arizona, and then the giant triangular UFO hovered above the great city of Phoenix, Arizona, where Dr. Lynn Kitai shot this amazing videotape. When we go out into space and we're exploring the cosmos out there and we're looking for signs of extraterrestrial life, what kind of a communication are we going to send out? I mean, if Dan Aykroyd was the ambassador, if you were the ambassador for Earth, what message would you teletype to ET?
If I were to speak for mankind to these beings that were coming here, I guess what I would say is, you know, let's go to some neutral place. Let's have a meeting with scientists from all around the world, world leaders. Let's sit down and basically have a sort of a forum with you, the extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings. Let's sit down and kind of get to know each other.